Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and we've got another transfer portal update video for you guys today. Now, today was a big-time day in the portal. A lot of high-caliber names entered their names, and some of them were expected, others really not so much. So it was a horrible day for me to be at Disney with my family. This is why, my life lesson to anybody who's watching this is, your family's going to want to do things with you. You don't always have to say yes. That's a joke. It's obviously a joke. But let's just get right into all these names who have gone in the portal really over the last 48 hours, starting off with Noland. He was very highly ranked as a recruit at quarterback. He went to Ohio State originally, and then he was at South Carolina for these past few years behind Lenore Sellers. I think his expectation, at least coming into this year, was that, Lenore is going to play his way to the NFL draft this season, and then the Gamecocks will be his going into next year. That didn't pan out. Lenore Sellers is now officially coming back to Carolina next season. So Noland's looking for a new home, a place where he can start. He hasn't really got a chance to show the country what he can do, which is a whole lot. This guy's an unbelievable athlete. He was rated highly as a recruit for a reason. But I would expect, because there's really no tape on him out there, that he'll be at a smaller Power 4 or a Group of 6 school going into next year. But based on what I know about this kid, what I've seen from his high school tape, I think that'll be a one-year stop at a stepping stone school, and then he'll be able to elevate himself up to a power school next season. But Noland, that's a name to watch down the line as, a guy who could be one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the country. Next up, got another quarterback that people are going to have to get familiar with fast. It's Antwann Hill Jr. coming up from Memphis. This kid's an absolute dog. He was incredibly highly rated as a recruit. He is going to be moving up in the ranks program-wise, right? From Memphis, I expect him to be at a pretty big-time power school going into next year. He's 6'4", 215, originally from Georgia, and he committed to Memphis over Florida when he made that decision. So I think sort of growing up in the SEC area, being in a recruiting battle between Memphis and Florida, I think you see Antwann end up at an SEC school. Probably not the Gators. Not sure about Georgia where he's from, but Antwann Hill is going to move up. He's going to be at an incredibly talented team next year. He's going to be at a big-time program. He might not start for them next year being as young as he is, but Antwann Hill, man, that's a name that you guys have got to get familiar with because he's going to be incredible at the higher levels of the sport. Next up, out of Texas, Deandre Moore Jr. at receiver is hitting the portal. He had 38 catches for 532 yards and 4 scores this past season. He's originally from California, so could he go back out west? We'll see, obviously. I think this is a pretty decent loss for Texas, though. Deandre Moore, he's incredibly talented. We saw him make his impact this past season, so losing that piece from the receiver room does hurt. It is Texas, so they'll have enough depth there, enough talent acquisition ability to be able to backfill that, but Deandre Moore is a great player. He should land on his feet. And then one of the bigger ones, Byrum Brown, out of USF. I think everyone kind of saw this coming, with Alex Golesh leaving. Now Brown is in the portal. Auburn is the heavy favorite already for him. I do believe that he will go to Auburn and stick with Alex Golesh. And he's big and physical enough, is Byrum, where I have really no doubts that he'll be good, physically in the SEC and toughness-wise. He needs to get a lot more consistent throwing the ball, though, because he could really, he could get away with some inconsistencies in accuracy, in decision-making in the American. That's not going to fly as well in the SEC. So I think the world of Byrum Brown. I think it's the right move for him to go up to Auburn. I think he'll be their starter. I think he'll be great. He needs to develop just a little bit more before he can really be the guy, at a school like Auburn. Speaking of Auburn, Ashton Daniels, their quarterback, he is hitting the portal. He's very experienced. He's old. If you had asked me before he went in the portal, I would have told you he had no more years left, but he does. I thought he did pretty well when he was called on at Auburn, in duty this year after Jackson Arnold was benched and whenever Deuce Knight wasn't in the game for whatever reason. I'm not sure that he'll start at a high-profile school. I think, obviously this move was because he knew that Byrum Brown was coming in, so the starting spot at Auburn wasn't going to be his. So for Daniels, he's very experienced. He showed that he can, he's great with his legs, great with his arm in select spots with Auburn. So I think he'll land on his feet, probably at a smaller school where he can get a starting job. But Ashton Daniels, also in the portal. And then more SEC guys here. Peyton Lewis, the running back at Tennessee, he is looking for a new place to play football. 70 carries for 290 and 7 scores this year. He's just a sophomore, and this past season he was really just a stable option in what was a deep backfield. So he's from Virginia originally. Could he maybe go up to Blacksburg? See what James Franklin is building up there at Virginia Tech. We'll see. But Peyton Lewis, he didn't get the shine of the other running backs in Tennessee's backfield just because of how crowded it was this past year. But he's really good. He's a very physical runner. That Josh Heupel scheme was perfect for him. He's to go to a place that is built like Tennessee, how they want to run the ball, and he'll be very, very good. Nashawn Montgomery from Florida. He is a wide receiver, and he is portaling. He was a 4 or 5-star receiver, based on where you look, in last year's recruiting class. He's an absolute speed demon. He's originally from Florida, so I expect him to land at another high-profile school, right? Because of his athletic profile is there. He's from Florida, so he already has ties to a Miami, to an FSU, places like that. So, Nashawn Montgomery, another Florida guy who is hitting the portal. And then Kamari Wilson. He is a former 5-star safety who was at Memphis this past year. He's hitting the portal. In the past, 24, 48 hours since their bowl game, really, for Memphis has been a lot of guys hitting the portal. And Kamari has done that. He's already had stops at Florida and Arizona State. He's already pretty well traveled. He was highly touted as a recruit, obviously, but it hasn't really panned out, at least consistently. I would expect Kamari to be able to sort of move up, though. I do think a power school will see him. They'll want him to go after him, even if just as sort of, a second safety, maybe even a third safety, because he has the physical abilities, the athletic profile to be a great player. He just hasn't quite put it together yet. Before Kamari, I expect him to move up, maybe back into the SEC, but Kamari Wilson is the last guy today that we're talking about in the portal. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, because I will be doing all that I can with the transfer portal, covering it to the best of my ability, trying to keep you guys up to date with who is entering, starting on January 2nd, who is committing, where people are ending up, new faces and new places. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I have been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.